Hey, Dr. John here with LifeSpa Ayurveda. Today I want to talk about the thyroid lymphatic connection. Yeah, in Ayurveda, they understood that the underlying imbalance related to a thyroid condition was congestion of the lymphatic system, called a kapha imbalance or galanganda roga, which suggests that the lymphatic vessels around the thyroid were congested. Now, the thyroid is a really important organ. It regulates metabolism. It's really in your neck because it connects the lower centers with the higher centers. And if your thyroid becomes congested because the lymphatic system around it is congested, remember your lymph is trying to drain all the toxins out of your body and your thyroid. It's trying to carry your immune system throughout your body. It's trying to deliver properly broken down and digested fat to every cell of your body for baseline energy. So if your if your lymphatic system gets congested, then you're a lot of different symptoms will begin to ensue. So it's really important that we always evaluate the lymphatic system first. In Ayurveda, we always evaluate the quality of how well the body moves the trash out through the lymphatic system first before we evaluate the blood and other systems. So we're always looking at that first. Rasa is the word for lymph, and the rasavaha shrotas are the ones that get congested around the neck for thyroid conditions. And the study of rasa is called rasayana, and the study of rasayana is the study of longevity. So good longevity and anti-aging health has to do with good lymphatic flow. Okay, let's dig into this. What's really interesting is back in 1988, researchers wrote a paper and they suggested that 90% of the hypothyroid conditions that they were seeing were actually Hashimoto's autoimmune thyroiditis, which means they were actually an autoimmune concern, which has a lot to do with the lymphatic system because the lymphatic system carries your immune system. Well, here's something even more interesting. Back in 1912, when Hakura Hashimoto first identified Hashimoto's syndrome, or an autoimmune concern of the thyroid, he actually called it stroma lymphomatosa. He actually called this a lymphatic condition, right? He didn't call it Hashimoto's because that was his name. That didn't get named to many, many years later, but he called it stroma lymphomatosa, which was a lymphatic condition. So the early researchers, and even today, they know that Hashimoto's is directly linked to congestion of the lymphatic vessels around your neck, your cervical lymph, and around your thyroid, right? Well, later on, before they named it Hashimoto's, they named it lymphocytic thyroiditis. They also named it lymph-adenoid goiter. So they gave it all these names before they finally settled on Hashimoto's. They gave it names related to lymphatic congestion. So whenever you are feeling tired or sluggish or lethargic, or feeling cold and things like that, before you actually come down with a thyroid condition, probably really good for you to evaluate your lymphatic system, right? And we know from Ayurveda that the lymphatic system starts in your digestive system. And the studies show that if you don't break down your proteins and your fats very well, and the proteins are like nuts and seeds and grains and legumes and wheat and dairy, some of these things that are somewhat harder to digest, right? The fats that we're thinking about are the hard to digest fats. There's good fats and there's bad fats. There's 70 million tons of toxic chemicals, all fat soluble, dumped in our atmosphere every year that filter down the water we drink, the air we breathe, food we eat, even if it's organic. So you really have to have really good digestion to make sure you break down the proteins and fats completely. Because if you don't, and you have some form of indigestion, or some of these foods just kind of don't sit well with you, it'd be really important not to just say, oh, well, I just stopped eating this or stopped eating that and sort of bubble wrap your diet. It's a really good idea to troubleshoot what aspects of your digestion is broken down, because here's the science. The studies show that if you don't digest the proteins and fats completely, they will go incompletely digested into your intestinal tract, and they'll be too big to get into your bloodstream. And they'll get uptaken, unfortunately, not into the toilet, but into the collecting ducts of your lymphatic system. And they'll start causing lymphatic congestion. First signs of that are extra weight around your belly, extra weight around your hips, some skin irritation, some skin rashes, some toenail fungus, some feeling tiredness, fatigue, maybe after a meal, or just general fatigue and malaise, hypersensitive issues to foods, to allergies, to pollens, headaches, lots and lots of symptoms. I've written many articles about the lymphatic system from the Ayurvedic perspective, but those are things that you'll feel initially, and that's the red flag. we should get in and start evaluating what part of my digestion has been broken down before that begins to happen. Because once the lymph gets congested, it circulates all over your body, and it can congest many aspects of your lymph. Your brain lymph can cause brain fog issues. Your skin lymph can cause skin-related issues. Your intestinal lymph can get congested, causing gut immunity issues. So lots to think about there, and of course it can congest the cervical lymph, can cause thyroid problems, and there's obviously really good science behind it because Hashimoto's was literally named after a lymphatic issue, right? So that's really kind of an important thing. The thyroid is also so prevalent. I mean, there's 50 million Americans have a thyroid condition. That's a conservative estimate. And the thyroid is considered to be one of the most sensitive organs to toxicity in our body. And I had a patient of mine who had a weight gain problem her entire life. She was on a medically supervised diet from a very young age. And I worked with a medical doctor, and we got her finally stabilized where her thyroid was normal. She had a thyroid issue. Her weight had become stable. She was eating what she wanted again. She was eating wheat and feeling good. And then one day she came to my office, and her thyroid numbers were off the charts again. Her weight was gaining really rapidly again. She was super concerned. We tried everything. I didn't really know what the next step was. So I called a friend of mine, a PhD thyroid researcher, Ryan Drum, and I said, Ryan, do you ever heard anything like this? And he said, has she bought a new car or any new furniture recently? And it was interesting because she had just moved to a different country, and she had just bought a new car, and she had just bought new furniture, and she was just telling me before I called him that the outgassing was so bad, right? I should have picked up on this. It was so bad that she couldn't even close the windows in her apartment, right? That new car smell isn't really that good for you, by the way. And it turns out that Ryan told me that the thyroid is the most sensitive organ to these environmental pollutants and chemicals and things like that. So that's why it's really important for us to, be aware of the environment that we're in, and how we digest is how we detoxify. So if you want to be a good detoxifier from all the environmental pollutants that are out there, boy, make darn sure you're actually digesting well. And for that, in the article associated with this video, I've written numerous articles. I have an ebook called The Digestive Troubleshooting Guide, where you troubleshoot your own digestive concerns, and I give you strategies to fix that. We've got a Miracle of Lymph ebook as well. We've got lots of information, tons of links in this article to go to help kind of solve what the upstream cause of this problem is, so you can identify a lymphatic congestion and a digestive issue way before it becomes a real problem. Please, really important article about the thyroid lymph connection. Please check it out on my website at lifespa.com, and thanks for listening. Do you like this video? Don't forget to subscribe and share.
This recording is brought to you by LifeSpa, where ancient Ayurvedic wisdom meets modern science. Get access to free health video newsletters by Dr. John at lifespa.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.